Good evening. Welcome to the January 13th Clifton Park Town Board meeting. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Teresa, if you call the roll.
Councilman Whalen? Here. Councilwoman Stanbar? Here. Councilman Romano?
Here.
Councilwoman Wallowit? Here. Supervisor Barrett?
Here. Communications and announcements. Any papers this evening? Okay. We have Winterfest coming up in February, and we'll have plenty of information to disseminate about that annual event. As always, some of the events are weather depending, meaning is there going to be snow on the ground? We'll see. We've had fairly good luck in recent years. We'll see what happens this year. But it's still a few weeks away, and we'll have plenty of information coming out about that event. I do have some sad news to share this evening. A longtime colleague of ours and friend to many in the town of Clifton Park passed away. Sandy Roth passed away this weekend, and of course he was at the time doing what he loved to do, which was volunteering on behalf of either the town or an organization within the town. Looking back, Sandy has been affiliated with town government in an official capacity since very late 1993. He was a town board member, appointed at that point and he served to the end of 2009. Since 2010, he was special assistant to my office, and he's done a great deal of work since leaving the town board. He's been a liaison to town committees such as the ECC and the EMS organizations, Ballston Lake and Clifton Park Half Moon. He would attend their meetings on a regular basis and collect information from the EMS agencies and bring that back to us. And that was always a welcomed assistance for the town, and it was a natural fit for Sandy because he had volunteered for many years with the Ballston Lake EMS. So he had a keen understanding of how those organizations operated and what they needed to do to accomplish their mission each and every day. So having him as the liaison to those two organizations was very, very helpful, and he enjoyed it. Sandy also taught a defensive driving course at the Clifton Park Senior Community Center, which was tremendous help to us when the town assumed operational responsibility 3 years ago. The defensive driving course was something that we wanted to bring back to the center, and Sandy had the certifications to teach the course. And actually he and Bev's Up stepped in and taught the class on many occasions after the town assumed operational responsibility for the center, and I know that was greatly appreciated by many of the members. He was also very helpful with the town's youth court program in its formative years. So he was there at all the hearings. He was part of the preparation team and was very helpful in that endeavor as well. But Sandy was an avid volunteer in town with many organizations. As I mentioned, he was a volunteer with Ballston Lake EMS, the Clifton Park Elks. He spent a great deal of time at the Elks Lodge working on various events that they have going on a regular basis. He was a very important member of the team that operates the Elks on a volunteer basis. He was also very involved with the Clifton Park Republican Party for many years, as well as many other community organizations. We thank Sandy for his service. He was recipient of the key to the town, and he will be missed by members of this town board, many people in town hall that he's worked with, in some cases for the 26 years that he was involved with town government. I know the folks down at the Y will certainly miss Sandy. He spent a lot of time there with various activities. I think his favorite was pickleball, though. He played a lot of pickleball down at the Y, and I know that that group of people will miss him as well. So please keep Sandy, his wife Carol, and their entire family in your prayers. So I just know that Sandy will be missed by many friends, colleagues, and fellow volunteers throughout the town. When someone works in the town with that many people across various organizations for decades, they leave a very large legacy, and that's certainly the case with Sandy Roth. So the services will be this week. We will certainly have our own opportunity to remember Sandy's service here at a town board meeting. I spoke with his wife Carol this weekend, and so we'll be working on that. I've already spoken to some folks that worked with Sandy in various capacities that I know would like to say a few words about him, and we're going to invite them to a town board meeting. So it's always difficult. It was sudden, and just happened this weekend. So it's a difficult time for Carol and his family. So I guess I'll leave it at that. But again, thank you, Sandy Roth. Appreciate everything you did working with town government and across various organizations within the town. All right. We do have a few resolutions for consideration this evening. Teresa, if you could read through those, please.
A resolution authorizing the supervisor to execute a grant contract with the County of Saratoga to support the purchase of development rights to Maple Hill Farm, whereas the town has been awarded grant funds pursuant to the New York State Farmland Protection Implementation Grant Program to acquire and hold a permanent conservation easement over lands of Maple Hill Farms with a combination of state funds as well as local matching funds. And whereas the County of Saratoga has awarded grant funding of $14,000 to support the project. Now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor is authorized to execute the grant funding contract with the County of Saratoga. A resolution authorizing a no-cost time extension to the $75,000 grant contract with New York State Canal Corp for the funding for the Mohawk River Bishop Ferry Preserve Improvements Project. Whereas the town has an existing grant contract with the New York State Canal Corp authorized by resolution number 61 of 2013 on March 4th, 2013 for funding towards the Mohawk River Bishop Ferry Preserve Improvements Project. And whereas the town has been reimbursed for eligible engineering design costs, which is allowed for up to 10% of the grant award, and the remaining eligible costs must be related to the construction contract costs. And whereas the project experienced a longer than anticipated approval process due to the historic and environmental sensitivities of the project site within the Bishop Area Nature and Historic Preserve, with the construction phase now anticipated for 2020 to 2021. And whereas the town board wishes to extend the funding agreement with the New York State Canal Corporation to provide additional time to complete the construction phase and to submit an eligible reimbursement claims under the grant contract with New York State Canal Corporation. Now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor is authorized to sign the attached no-cost time extension with the New York State Canal Corporation to provide additional time for the construction phase and funding mechanism. A resolution regarding the engineering design for the pedestrian improvements at various locations in the town of Clifton Park, with the supplemental agreement number 1 to include right-of-way boundary survey, right-of-way taking maps, and right-of-way incidental and acquisition tests to complete right-of-way incidentals and acquisition phase. Whereas by resolution number 3437 of 2018, the town board authorized a professional services agreement with Freeman Peterson for preliminary design work and preparation of an application for funding for a pedestrian safety action project within the vicinity of Route 146 and Clifton Park Center Road. And whereas the town was awarded grant funding of $400,000 under the New York State Pedestrian Safety Action Plan with a no local match requirement. And whereas by resolution number 297 of 2018, the town board authorized the supervisor to sign a contract for engineering design services and the scope of work with Freeman Peterson in an amount not to exceed $62,000. And whereas Freeman Peterson has conducted preliminary design and has identified limited but necessary locations for right-of-way acquisition to implement the strategic intersection improvements per the attached scope of work, supplemental scope of services number 1. And whereas upon completion of row incidentals and property acquisitions, it is anticipated the project will see final design approval authorization for bid and construction in 2020. Now therefore be it resolved, the comptroller is authorized to transfer from unreserved fund balance by increasing interfund transfer other contractual $47,400 to capital budget, which will increase revenues. Internal transfer and trails engineering for the amount not to exceed $47,400 to the capital budget. Route 146 Clifton Park pedestrian upgrades, and be it further resolved that the supervisor is authorized to sign supplemental agreement number 1 attached. A resolution authorizing execution of the 2019-2020 New York State Pollution Prevention Institution Program grant contract, whereas the town and the Green Committee submitted an application for the 2019-20 Community Grant Program for raising public awareness for chemical-free lawn care and services through strategic public outreach and education. And whereas the town has been awarded a grant from New York State Pollution Prevention Institution in the amount of $14,978 under the program to be used to offset costs of the delivery of focused workforce and professional development training concerning effective uses of organic law and land care. And whereas the project will enable the town to offer training and education to landscape service companies, workers, and new workforce staff regarding effective chemical-free lawn care service, including public educational and promotion. And whereas the town board wishes to accept the $14,978,000 grant offered by New York State Pollution Prevention Institution 2I to enable the committee to hire professional services to deliver a 4-day course in organic lawn care options and alternatives. Now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor is authorized to execute the attached agreement with NYS 2PI for grant funding in support of the Green Committee's project, and be it further resolved that the town board increases revenues by $14,978 and increases expenditures by $14,978. Green Committee. A resolution authorizing the town supervisor to sign an agreement with the Saratoga County Sheriff's Department for specialized law enforcement services, whereas the town of Clifton Park has found it to be effective and efficient to obtain law enforcement services within the town through the Saratoga County Sheriff's Department, whereas the town board wishes to renew the existing agreement for specialized law enforcement services with the Saratoga County Sheriff's Department per the attached agreement. Now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor is authorized to sign the attached agreement with the Saratoga County Sheriff's Department, whereby the Sheriff's Department shall provide specialized law enforcement services within the town of Clifton Park for a one-year period from January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020 for an amount not to exceed $573,058.78 to be paid from general fund security other contractual. A resolution appointing Jason Beach as a member of the planning board, whereas a vacancy exists for a member of the planning board with the resignation of Jeffrey Jones from the position, and whereas Jason Beach, 47 Wheeler Drive, Clifton Park, is recommended by the supervisor to fill the vacant position. Now therefore be it resolved that Jason Beach is hereby appointed planning board member for the remainder of Mr. Jones's 7-year term to expire December 31st, 2021, and be it further resolved that this appointment shall take effect immediately.
Okay, any questions on the resolutions? Okay, Teresa, will you read the headings, please?
Resolution number 6 of 2020, a resolution authorizing the supervisor to execute a grant contract with the County of Saratoga to support the purchase of development rights to Maple Hill Farm.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Romano, second by Mrs. Standart. This is the county's portion of this farmland protection initiative. And this is just to remind everybody of which farm this is. It's our 4th farm that we've been able to preserve, and it's located at the corner of Ashdown and 146A. Any further discussion? Okay, Teresa.
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standart?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Malowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 7 of 2020, a resolution authorizing a no-cost time extension to the $75,000 grant contract with the New York State Canal Corporation for funding for the Mohawk River Bishop Ferry Preserve Improvements Project.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Standart, second by Mr. Whalen. John?
Yes, this project is ready to go back out to bid in 2020. Basically, last year we went out to bid for construction. The bids came in over the contract, anticipated grant amounts. So to close the funding gap, we applied over this last year for the consolidated funding announcements, the grant opportunities through New York State, and we were successfully awarded $150,000 through New York State Canal Corp, which will close that budget gap based on the previous bids. And once we get the contracts from New York State Canal Corp, we'll be ready to nail down the construction agreements and move forward with the project. Canal Corp is aware of where we stand with the project, and again, no cost time extension. The state actually encouraged us to apply under the last CFA round to try to close that budgetary gap that we had.
Thank you, John. Yeah, this is part of our continued improvements to the access points for the Bishop Ferry Preserve. These funds would be invested in the area of Klutz Dry Dock, which is a wonderful, beautiful, scenic area, very historic. If you drive, we have a small parking lot there. If you park and walk in, you'll see the dry dock area off the canal, and you can also imagine that there are houses and businesses there on either side of the water. There are bridge abutments that are there that are, I don't know what year those date back to, but they go back quite a long way, when there was a bridge there at one time. With a new pedestrian bridge and the other enhancements within this area, it will be a great connection point to the new trail that was completed a couple of years ago that travels from the main entrance area for the Bishop Ferry Preserve towards Klutz Dry Dock, and then further down into the town of Half Moon. When you get to the end of the trail, you end up at the under the Twin Bridges. So it is a fantastic, beautiful addition to the Bishop Ferry Preserve, and this pedestrian bridge will allow people to access that trail from a different access point. Right now, if you park at Klutz Dry Dock and you can get to the trail, but you have to walk through a very rough path, and you'd have to take a right, go on a very rough path all the way to the main parking area for the preserve, and pick up the new trail at that point. With this new pedestrian bridge, you'll be able to enter the Klutz Dry Dock area, take the bridge directly over to the trail, and then you can go either way. You can take a left and go towards the Twin Bridges, or you can take a right, which will lead you back to the main parking area. So it's going to be a wonderful enhancement for pedestrians using the Bishop Ferry Preserve, and open up more access points, and for people that are using the preserve in different areas. So, looking forward to the project. As John mentioned, there was a funding gap with the new grant funds that were recently announced that we were awarded. The project is now ready to go back out to bid. So, John and Jen and staff will be monitoring that process in the next few months. Any questions? Myself or John? Teresa?
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Walowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 8 of 2020, a resolution regarding the engineering design for the pedestrian improvements at various locations in the town of Clifton Park with a supplemental agreement. Number 1, to include right-of-way boundary right survey, right-of-way taking maps, and right-of-way incidental and acquisition tasks to complete right-of-way incidentals and acquisition grades.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Ms. Wallowit. And over the last few years, we've, you can come on up, John.
Yep.
Over the last few years, we've been working to make our trail system more pedestrian friendly and safer for people utilizing the 17 plus miles that have been constructed since 2000. It's nice to have a growing trail network throughout town, but it is very important to have crosswalks that are as safe as possible, not only at intersections, but in between intersections. And that's what those blinking lights are for, at the crosswalks that you've seen pop up in different locations around town over the last few years. Those are pedestrian activated for those that haven't used them. They are pedestrian activated. Instead of just having a static, bright yellow or green sign, you see the blinking lights on either side of the road, which is a much better alert to motorists than simply a static sign just sitting there. So those signs are to be used at not at intersections, but at midpoints on different roads. For instance, there's one over here as you enter the common, not at an intersection, but at midpoint between two intersections. One intersection being at Clifton Park Center and Bishop Ferry, and the other being what is now the roundabout. Same is true for one that was installed on Moore Road, between the intersection with Grooms and Inglemore. So there's 146A. That's another example. So we continue to roll those out, and we'll continue to add to our the number of those blinking lights. I know that's not the official term. What's the official term?
RRFBs.
RRFB, yes.
Rectangular Rapid Flashing Beacons.
What he said, RRFBs. I call them the blinking lights that help pedestrians. Okay. So, you hit your. So this, what we're going to talk about tonight is separate from that. to the extent that we received a generous grant to further build out and expand safe crosswalks throughout our trail network. So John, why don't you take us through what is included in this grant now that we're ready to hit the next phase and go out to bid?
Yes, so this program was PSAP, known for Pedestrian Safety Action Plan. Out of over 70 eligible communities within the four-county area, the capital region, there were only 4 awards made. City of Albany, City of Rensselaer, City of Schenectady, and Town of Clifton Park. So we were very happy to receive one of the awards for $400,000. While there was 4 awards, 2 of those communities were guaranteed money because it was actually written into the bill. So there's really only 2 grant awards out of 70 eligible communities. So we were very happy to get a portion of it, and a lot of it had to do with the town center initiatives. And we could see that through the intersections that were picked by the funding agency. And when we look at what we have 8 different projects for one program. 5 of the locations are signalized intersections. They show up as the red here, and then the unsignalized intersections show up as the purple. I'll highlight a couple of the specific improvements for 3 of the locations, but I would like to mention that all crosswalks will be replaced with high visibility markings, and curb ramps will be upgraded to meet current ADA standards as necessary for accessibility. In addition to that, signalized intersections will include head countdown signals to be installed with handicapped accessibility and improvements to the crosswalks also. Just going to walk through a couple of the locations. So when we look at this location here, the first one is intersection of Clifton Park Center Road and Vischer Ferry Road. This is right outside of Town Hall currently, where we have 2 legs of a crosswalk crossing, but you have to follow the signalized light. And with the right on reds, often pedestrians are left hanging because people won't see traffic coming to their left, and they just automatically take the right without stopping. And it creates some issues for pedestrians to safely maneuver to the multi-use path along Vischer Ferry Road, which does get a lot of heavy traffic use. So what we're going to do is improve all 4 legs of the crosswalk with high visibility markings. And what I mean by high visibility is they actually use a glass polymer in the paint, so it's highly reflective. When it rains and your headlights hit it, it doesn't, it's not washed out in low light conditions. So the countdown timers would be installed here. It is a signalized intersection, so the public would get dedicated legs to cross safely at the intersection. So that's one of the signalized intersection improvements. Next one here is going to be School Drive further down Clifton Park Center Road. 2008, I think it was, Shenandoah and the town was successful with the first Safe Routes to Schools grant in New York State. At that time, DOT did all the design work for that project. The rapid flashing beacons were not a technology available to us back then, so they used a static flashing yellow Hermana beacon. Works great. It's I think in this location both are solar powered, so they do work well. We've had to replace the batteries I think once since they've been installed, but the issue is people become immune to it because they're always flashing yellow when there's pedestrians and when there's not pedestrians. So if people drive through that corridor and they see the flashing lights but no pedestrians, it just reinforces that, all right, I'm slowing down for something that the pedestrians aren't there. By keeping those lights as advanced warnings and then installing the rapid flashing beacons, the rapid flashing beacons are really angled towards the drivers on the roadway. Each travel lane is about 11 to 12 feet in width. It's like having a strobe. go off, or a camera flash. So it really gets your attention. It's only activated when pedestrians are at that crosswalk. This is an area which public safety helps students now cross during school hours. And there are a lot of walkers from the Clifton Knolls and cyclists, Mill Creek neighborhood to the Shen campus. So this will be a great improvement for the intersection, especially in the fall months too, because what happens is Shen football games, a lot of the kids from the neighborhood can easily walk to the campus, but 9 o'clock at night, people aren't expecting pedestrians to cross. These RFBs will definitely get the attention of any drivers going through that corridor, only when a pedestrian is looking to safely cross. And the last location I would like to show is Hollandale Apartments, also on Clifton Park Center Road. The issue here is, again, it is a signalized intersection, but with right-on red maneuvers. There's never really that gap for people to cross safely. Matter of fact, we had a visually impaired woman who previously lived in Hollandale who advocated for us to pursue this type of grant opportunity, and we did. She since moved to the Bentley. She actually had a service dog. That service dog would not even cross even with the light because there were always vehicles taking the right on red. So it never saw that safety gap. So here, again, had pedestrian countdown signals with the walk, don't walk person, and it will also have audible chirping sounds for people who are visually impaired to be able to listen for those cues. And we are also, to get these signals, this was where we were ending up with some of the right-of-way takings for easements, permanent easements, because we do have to run power to all 4 legs of the intersection. Currently, the power line runs diagonal across the intersection, I believe, this way. So we've got to get it to all 4 legs. One of the things that the state is requiring is that we show we have ownership or a mechanism of a permanent easement over small slivers of land to accommodate either a utility relocation or the installation of this infrastructure. So that's why this is before the board this evening, is to allow for us to pursue those small takings that we're going to need to secure either by a permanent easement or a temporary construction easement.
Now, there's 8 altogether, right?
Correct.
Okay, so we've got, intersection Clifton Park Center Road, Clifton Country Road, and Hollandale. Clifton Park Center Road and Sitterly. Clifton Park Center Road and Moe Road. Clifton Park Center Road and Bishop's Ferry. Clifton Country Road and McDonough Way. Clifton Country Road and Wall Street. Clifton Country Road, mid-block crossing.
Yes.
That you have up there.
Yes, Clifton Country Road, mid-block crossing. What's interesting here is we've got the Wall Street intersection up here, but also if we go further up Clifton Country Road, behind where Starbucks is, the drive-through lane, there's also a mid-block crossing that takes you to the Pier 1 and 99 restaurant. So it's that crossing there that's also considered mid-block that will have the RFBs installed.
And Clifton Park Center Road and School Drive. Okay, so those are the 8?
Yes, and we should be in a position, we went for final design construction authorization. Once we can show we secured the easements where necessary, we're guessing end of April, early May for a bid process with installation July, August, and ready to go by September of this year.
Yeah, that's great. Perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Any questions for John? Discussion? Okay, another project that we've talked about quite a bit leading up to this point, and we'll utilize these grant funds to their fullest to enhance our expanding trail network and make the experience as safe as possible for all pedestrians. Okay, Teresa?
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes.
Resolution number 9 of 2020, a resolution authorizing execution of a 2019-2020 New York State Pollution Prevention Institute Program grant contract.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Mr. Whalen.
We don't have any updates,
Okay.
but I did want to extend my gratitude to Joanne Coombs and Jen Vigiani, our open space coordinator, who worked extensively on this grant process. This particular grant is to provide training to landscaping businesses, property managers, private and public entities, the grounds crews, to bring an awareness to an alternate to chemical use on lawns. I don't know if Joanne, you wanted to add anything. You really did a lot of the legwork, and I appreciate that.
The reason we went with this grant was that people aren't utilizing organic or healthy lawn practices because it really isn't offered. Nobody offers it. So there's good reason why it's not being done. So if we can actually train the trainers, it'll be available to people and as an option. It'll be a good, I don't know, might become a good tool in their belt for, increasing their business. And, bottom line is the environment. When it's, the beautification of Stony Creek Reservoir, it's all choked up with weeds, and, we've got to stop the flow of pollution into our rivers and lakes and streams. So I think we'll just have a healthy environment, good for our kids, good for our pets. And that's the way to go. It's very prevalent in Connecticut and Long Island because they understand that these pollutants infiltrate into the groundwater, protecting the groundwater. So I think if we can take a look and see what's done elsewhere, we can maybe, it's prevention. We want to stand up things.
Have we reached out to any lawn care professionals or?
I've had casual conversations because until this was passed, I really wasn't able to go full speed ahead and promote it.
Right.
We have a lot of interest from management of properties. We have lawn care professionals. John Q. Public is invited to this, so that if you just want to learn how to do it, we're going to have a couple sessions too, just one night things for our public.
Well, let me ask you this, Joe, because it seems like it says 4-day course. I mean, so does that mean each day is different? So
Yeah.
That's an extensive amount of time
Yes,
that
you're
somebody would
accredited,
have to.
certified at the end by the NOFA, it's National Organic Farming Association out of Connecticut. You're listed on their website as being a credentialed person.
Mhm.
There's very few places that really offer this education. Maryland has contracted out with them extensively because they offer this, and they are really worried about the Chesapeake Bay area. So they have full enrollments there. So I know that the town of Niskuna is very interested in sending some of their people over too, and it's, once we get the grant, it is available and free to these people. So it needs 4 days. They have professionals that come in and, they do, they're Cornell people and they know their topics, so they have a day job, so they've taken their day off to come from Connecticut to come teach this class. They're very credentialed. So you'll leave with some really good knowledge and some credentialing.
And when it says 4-day, how many hours a day? Do you
I
know?
believe it's like 9 to 4.
Oh, okay. So it's a full day,
It is full day, yes. We provide lunch. That
at
was-
least for a class.
Yeah, we're going to get lunch from our local farmers, so we can keep it local.
What was the time frame for holding this?
It was the last week of February. We've already booked the library.
Okay.
Hang on, I think I got dates here. 24th to 27th. Yeah. February 24th to 27th. So if there's no big snowfalls, it should be fine because they aren't that long. It might be plowing snow. That was probably the
Yeah.
best time of year that we could schedule it for them.
Right. So, what is? Do you have any plan to disseminate this information and
We have an
try
extensive
to
mailing list.
nail down some participants.
Yes, we have a very extensive mailing list of lawn care professionals, which we can reach via email, or I don't have all their emails. Sometimes I have these emails where you have to go right to the website and send a direct, it's just like Tom Clifton Park, send in a direct, so you don't really know their email address. So in that case, we have their address as a backup to actually send a snail mail.
Chamber.
The,
We have other organizations to support us that have, access to lawn care professionals that we contacted.
we might, with the permit system down at the transfer station, we might have some of those emails too.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea as far as the composting down there. To, hand flyer out to the trucks as they come through, so they definitely would be involved in that
Mhm.
profession, so it's a really good idea.
Okay.
We got Hewitt's and, Kulaks and all sorts of different places we can disseminate information that reach people in that profession.
So other than the 4-day course, you're saying there would be a couple of nights for homeowners?
Yeah, there'll be a spring event, and we're going to invite David Cherry from Cornell Cooperative Extension. I've heard his 1-hour speech is excellent.
Mhm.
Yes, it's just practical, good sense way to take care of your lawn. And then Peter Bowden from Hewitt's.
Mhm.
He writes in the Penny Saver, and he's a proponent of organic lawn care.
Mm.
A good speaker.
Oh,
Yeah.
Chittery's just affiliated with Cornell. He's the turf expert for everything. I've consulted him for.
And
I've
he
had
does
him
it
speak
in a
at a
real,
lot of our programs.
he does it in a real digestible way. It's kind of like,
okay. No pun intended.
And he throws a little
No.
entertainment in to keep you.
What, does he bring his guitar with him?
No, he doesn't have a guitar.
he's very laid back, and he's kind of got a sense of humor like you. I think you'd enjoy that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's a.
I don't like this.
See, you're selling it already, Joanne. That's
Yeah, I
good.
know, I'm sure you would.
Sign me up. All 4 days.
That'd be signed up. And the
What's that?
town buildings and grounds.
Yeah, we'll reach out to our buildings and grounds to certainly be invited.
Very good.
And we'll pay for it, so, there's some good benefits to come.
Right. Okay. Very good. Any questions for our Green Committee? Or Green Committee Chair?
No, thank you, I appreciate you.
I'm not Sharon, I'm just bringing.
No, I was looking at her.
Oh, okay.
She's
Oh, she's up here, okay, good.
she's a standard.
Thank you.
Yes, she's up here with the leader.
All right, very good. Okay, Teresa?
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Walowitz? Yes. Supervisor Barry?
Yes.
Resolution number 10 of 2020, a resolution authorizing the town supervisor to sign an agreement with the Saratoga County Sheriff's Department for specialized law enforcement services.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Whalen, second by Ms. Walowit. We continue to work with the sheriff and state police moving forward. This is above and beyond the regular, I'll say regular, standard, maybe would be a better term, standard coverage that we receive from the Saratoga County Sheriff's Department. Okay. Any questions? Okay, Teresa.
Councilman Whalen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Standard?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Walowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Barry?
Yes.
Resolution number 11 of 2020, a resolution appointing Jason Beach as a member of the planning board.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mrs. Standard, second by Ms. Walwitt. Mr. Beach has been very involved with the town on a volunteer basis, particularly with the Jonesville Fire Department, and we do appreciate his willingness to step forward and serve the town in this capacity. We'll have 2 new members. Is your first meeting tomorrow, John?
Tomorrow,
Yeah, tomorrow. So we'll have 2 new members. Obviously, Mr. Beach and Ram Lalakota will be the new alternate. replacing Teresa LaSalle, who could no longer continue as the alternate on the planning board. So we thank Teresa very much. We thank Mr. Jones as well for their volunteer service to the town. The planning board is challenging to the extent that it's definitely the volunteer committee of the town that requires the largest investment of time, and I don't think it's that close, right, John? When compared to other committees, the planning board is a challenging commitment. I know the members get information ahead of time. They visit sites. They do their research prior to the meetings. Obviously, many of the meetings are quite lengthy, so there's a big time commitment. We've been very fortunate to have a board that is consistently made up of people from different backgrounds and expertise. The same is true for zoning and our other committees as well. And we believe that's also important. So we look forward to seeing Mr. Beach and Mr. Lalakota on the planning board for 2020 and probably beyond. Any discussion? Okay, Teresa.
Councilman Whitman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Stander?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Walowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes, any other business to come before the board this evening? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to public privilege. Pam, John? Green Committee? Any takers?
I love the pass, I'm really happy about the extension of them.
Oh, you mean the Trail Network?
Yeah,
Oh,
super, good
yeah.
news, I'm glad I came.
Well, if you'd like any more of this information, John can make you some copies of what he put together. And you did a good job with that, John, putting that together visually. It's easy to follow with some good information, so well done. And we'll get that information up on the website as well. As John mentioned, looking at summertime for construction. Okay.
Mission 2, adjourned.
Second.
Second by Mr. White.
Councilman Whitman?
Yes.
Councilwoman Stander?
Yes.
Councilman Romano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Walowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Barrett?
Yes, thank you.